I'm Robin McClendon. Welcome to my channel. And let's find out what Pause 21 is all about. So, last week as I was dealing with Pause 20, which had to do with sacred weirdness, with my Yūgen, fun term, I really found myself thinking about how sacred weirdness appears for me. It's just like, it's the quirkiest stuff, right? Like if I think of something, like a thought may come into my mind, and then I'll think, oh, what would that be like if I tried it a particular way, right? And so generally, I'll try it. I've just learned to trust those little sparks, that little quirky way that I think about my work and the way I relate to the world. So I think, it's like we're in our individual spaces when it comes to this concept, but it really does have to do with those things that just pop into our mind, those little sparks. And it's about like listening to them. It's observing them. It's really honoring those ideas when they come up. So Pause 21 is listen for the sparks. Now, I think what happens, and I hear it a lot in my community, is that a lot of people just ignore the sparks, those little thoughts to pop up. Or they'll say, oh, I'll get back to them. Or I'll remember it. And then when it's time, you don't remember it. You didn't write it down. You didn't really honor that moment when something came up. And the greats, the artists that are like the greats, the ones whose work we admire in the museums, the ones who, you may pattern your art after in terms of inspiration, they listen to all those sparks. Now, I'm sure a few of them got away. But you think when Marcel Duchamp was walking down the street and saw that disposed urinal and a bike wheel and a broken chair, what if he hadn't picked that stuff up? What if he hadn't thought, we're just throwing all this stuff away and it's just laying out here. I'm going to turn it into art. And he called it ready-made art because the stuff was already made and he just assembled them. But it wasn't a just. It was a new idea. It was a fresh spark. It was something that hadn't been done in art before. And he got known for these sculptures that he, called ready-made art. Pretty much like in our community, we have something that I've coined post-consumer waste. So it's post-consumer art. And it's a similar thing. We just throw so much packaging away and, just tons of stuff. So during the pandemic, I had the idea, as opposed to throwing all these Amazon packages and stuff away, I'm just going to make books out of them. And so I did. And many of the books today, you wouldn't even know that it's an Amazon package. Because, of course, we work our magic on our things. But it's a similar idea of when you see something or you think about it, you move into the space of making it happen. Even if you just write it down so that you can come back to it and the idea is still captured there. But yeah, if you think about like a Picasso, when he decided, he was a brilliant portraiture artist. Like very, very exact, almost like photo portraiture. But he had the idea to abstract the face, So he started abstracting the face and he came up with his really quirky, weird portraitures. But they're iconic now, right? And so just think about all of the greats. They did something different. They did the same thing but differently. So Georgia O'Keeffe painted flowers, but she had a spark, an idea that made them huge so that people couldn't ignore looking at the details of a flower. That was her motivation. You have Rothko wanting to bring forth a feeling of spirituality. How when you close your eyes and you see colors melding together, that deep sense of peace and interconnection. And he did it with his color fields. So it's like, or Andy Warhol. I could go on and on. We could just make this a video about this type of thing. Andy Warhol. He had the idea to silkscreen a Campbell's soup can. Campbell's soup can, and he made it iconic. He also took portraits of famous people. We all have seen the Marilyn Monroe one. And he did a silkscreen in neon colors. Yeah, he just changed the color palette, the color field on something that would have been expected to have a particular color field. He changed it completely and sort of made this pop art. So these are what sparks are. And I invite you this week to think about your own sparks. Don't try to conform. Whew, we're living in a time where everything is conformity. It's all a fear of just thinking a little differently or acting a little differently, or, you know, I might not get that like or that heart if I do something different than what everybody else is doing. Well, you're never going to get to your own genuine personal voice if you don't follow your own sparks. If you don't allow yourself to follow that thing that motivates you, that thing that really, you know, causes you to get up every morning and go into that studio and do something. So, and that's where passion is. Mediocrity doesn't have passion in it. There's no passion in mainstreaming anything. But when you allow those sparks, when you allow your sacred weirdness to rise to the top, and then you follow it to where it's leading you, now that's where the good stuff is. That's where your art can change direction. That's when someone can look at your art and say, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And you know what? Even if somebody looks at your art and says, oh my God, what made you think to do that? I mean, how many times have people done it over Picasso's? It hasn't stopped them from selling millions and millions of dollars when those paintings go up to auction. It didn't stop his patrons from buying his paintings when he was living. So you're not going to please everyone. That's the other side. You're not going to please everyone when you go to follow your own passionate personal expression, your own sacred weirdness. It's not going to please everyone. So it's okay. If you get a really negative reaction, count it as good, because it means that you've really done something outside the box. And if that thing made you happy, then you're on to something. And I'd say stick with it. So I guess we're still kind of playing around in that affectionately labeled 10th aesthetic of Japanese art, my Yūgen, which is this idea of sacred weirdness. As we think this week of how it comes up as these sparks, I invite you to continue to stay in that space with yourself and discover what makes you different, and then put it into your work. And abandon anything that's mediocre, anything that's just like what somebody else just did. Don't do it. Allow yourself to experiment, like you might have gotten inspiration from what they did. Experiment with it, but after you've gotten the technique down, or after you've explored the inspiration, and then you have this spark to do something a little differently, go with it. Go with doing it differently. And that is where innovation happens. That is where the magic is going to be. I'm going to tell you another real short story on a study that was done by, I believe it was the CIA. So they had like 20 people in a room. 19 of the people were CIA agents. They were in there specifically to be a part of this study. Only one person in there was a random person like you or I. But that random person thought that everybody in the room was random, right? So an image was passed around. And it started with one of the very first agents. And it ended with the last person who was really random. It was an image of a triangle. Just a simple triangle. The same type of triangle you may show to a toddler when you're showing them their shapes. So it was a triangle. The first agent said square. Second agent said square. All the way down to the 19th agent said it was a square. Now the whole time you have to imagine with this person who was a random person sitting there looking at this image being passed around thinking, that is not a square, that is a triangle. Put yourself in that position. You would have to think that when it came to you, you'd say triangle. Nope. When it came to that 20th person, you got it. They said square. They said square. And that was a study that was repeated. And repeatedly, that's what people would do. So if you tell a person something over and over again, or they witness people having a response over and over again to something, even if they don't believe that themselves, even if they don't think that it's true, it's been proven that people will acculturate. They will go along because they don't want to be wrong, don't want to be left out, don't want to be the odd guy. You know, all the reasons, FOMO, you know, all the reasons that one would do that would look at something logically that's a triangle and say it's a square. That's, to me, what happens on social media with all the likes and the hearts and the likes and the comments. It's very easy to kind of fall into this space of kind of giving people what they want. So even if you just have your own, you know, social media page and you just post stuff for the fun of it, you're not doing it like a business or anything, it's still very easy to put up what you think you're going to get a heart. Who wants to put up with stuff and time and time and time you get negative responses or, you know, a thumb down? But when you brave into that space of doing what really is your heart's passion, you will attract people who see the world the way you see it or resonate the way you're resonating to it. It may take a little time. Can't give up on yourself, but it will happen. It most definitely will happen because there's a lot of people out there who also could have been in that study and they would have said triangle. Probably a low percentage, but I gotta believe that somebody would have said triangle. I'm sure one of you out there sitting listening to this would thought, no way I would have said a square. I would have most definitely said triangle, right? So listen for the sparks this week. All right, take care, guys. Love you so much. Always appreciate you being on this journey with me. Keep on commenting below. When I'm traveling, sometimes all I can do is heart them, because it's kind of very difficult to always answer, but I'm seeing everyone in the comments. I do respond, and yeah, let's just keep this journey going. All right, take care. Love you guys, and have an amazing week, and listen for the sparks. Take care. Bye-bye.